So hello and welcome to another Prodo Chatbot session. Those of you who tuned in last week will remember we did a similar session last week. I think there were about 124 people in total watching it. And there was a whole host of questions asked, perhaps too many questions for us to answer in one session. So we thought we'd get on again today, do another session and talk about some of the most common questions asked around chatbots. And there's quite a few questions that have been asked by our audience as well. So we'll kick it off.
Well, I haven't actually got any questions written down there. But I think one of the things we talked about before was a lot of people are just sort of saying, well, what is a chatbot? That's one of the most kind of common questions that we're getting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I guess there is a whole host of answers to that question. A chatbot in its simplest form is a piece of software that ultimately follows a defined process to serve answers to common questions and common paths that users go down. So if you imagine a chatbot being a simple flowchart, this is a flowchart that could ask a user a question such as, what are you looking for help with today? And it might present three answers. As a user interacts with one of those answers or clicks on one of those answers, they're given a path and they're pushed down a system to ultimately pull them to an endpoint and assist that person like a human would. In the more advanced form, chatbots can use artificial intelligence, they can use deep learning, they can use a whole host of algorithms and certain sort of pieces of information to become a very clever thing.
Well, they can integrate with other back office systems as well, so data-driven chatbots are usually quite useful. So someone's looking for an update on, for example, the progress of their order, for example. You could use a chatbot that links into your back office order fulfillment services. Yeah. Someone says, where's my order? They can say it's being dispatched right now, or it's on the back of a lorry, it's about an hour away from your house, or something like that.
And in terms of data, though, it doesn't have to sound like a robot. I think one of the biggest questions we've had is how do we approach personality or tone for chatbots, and how do we bring that brand voice into it? And me and Rob were only talking this morning about this, where we would take your kind of scripts that you would use with your call centres and we put that into a chatbot, or similar to your brand guidelines really. However your tone of voice on your website, how you talk to your customers, we'd be able to bring that through. And if anything, you can protect your brand a bit more by using a chatbot.
Well, that's it. And we've had people sort of say to us things like, we're worried about not being able to have that kind of control over what the bot is saying and the tone of voice that is being used. And as we said in the last session, you almost kind of get more control with a chatbot because you obviously get the option to sort of program in how the bot is going to respond to customers and what it's actually going to say.
Yeah, and to go back to the first question we answered, what is a chatbot? One of the things I would say is a chatbot can generate leads. It can be a lead generation engine. A chatbot can be a method of channel shift that ultimately is a digital assistant. It could be a member of your call centre. It could replace live chat. It's not necessarily a cool, quirky fad that, ASOS and Misguided and some really cool brands would use to be a bit sassy. It doesn't have to be that. That's the word of the day.
Well, it's only going to become widely adopted and widely used by your business and by your customers if it can solve real problems. If it can't, well then it's just a little fad that's on your website, a bit of a vanity project. And there's no point in doing that. It's a complete waste of time.
Absolutely, and it's worth pointing out that chatbots that we build and general chatbots are multi-platform. And by that I mean that this chatbot can sit in the bottom right hand corner of your website in a little bubble with a picture of a person's face, and it can appear like live chat. It can also sit on Facebook Messenger, it can also sit on Skype, it can sit on SMS, it can sit on email, but the user can touch this chatbot through any one of these mechanisms all the way throughout the process. So these aren't necessarily just something that Facebook users can use or just something that website users can use. They're multi-platform, and the amount of platforms they can be used on are growing and growing and growing.
But it's also support for any kind of customer contact or sales team that you have. So your sales team might be answering a lot of questions the same every single time. It might be, where can I find information on this product or what this product does? And the answer might be the same every time. Go to this page of our website, or you send them this specific document, and a chatbot can help support that customer contact team. But the other thing to remember is that a single chatbot doesn't just service one single customer. That single chatbot can service hundreds of customers simultaneously. So it's actually upscaling that customer contact team, but through one single interface.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's the 24-hour element of it. That someone can have a question at 1 in the morning. Your team aren't going to be awake then, but your chatbot can be. And we're seeing more and more people go onto the homepage of a website and they're looking for that live chat, that instant, I want to talk with someone who I believe is a human being, and or could be a chatbot, and we'll just say, this is my question. So it could
It goes beyond that, doesn't it? Because it's not just about, I want to talk to someone. You don't care if you're talking to a person or a bot, as long as you get an answer to the question. And that's ultimately what people want, is they want their questions answered.
I would say the best chatbots, though, the end user doesn't know if they're speaking to a person or a bot.
Yeah,
and true. You know, when I've seen some poor applications of chatbots where it says, you know, I am a chatbot, I can help you with some things, but there are some things I can't help you with. And that, to me, straight away is a bit of a negative slant on the entire, I guess, customer journey from that point on. What I would expect to see as a chatbot is, you know, I would expect to see something that looks and feels human, and I wouldn't necessarily want to know when I'm being passed off to a human and so on. And this has been an interesting question asked on our Facebook Live. So this is Pippa Goldenberg. What about using chatbots for delivering a service rather than using them to replace customer service queries? For example, one to deliver health information or weather updates. Now, this is something I'm quite passionate about. I am a bit of an advocate of a website at the moment called Habito, and it's effectively a complete online mortgage broker, all delivered via a chatbot. And we spoke about this a little bit last week, but if you visit habito.co.uk, it's a process that takes you from initial interest in a mortgage through to through to being, you know, given a conditional offer for a mortgage, all the way through to receiving the funds without any human intervention. But it's fully regulated, fully FCA approved, and delivered by a bot. We also have Plum, which I guess is another good example, PLUM. And this is a Facebook Messenger application that is a savings account that takes advantage of the new open banking policies, and it sits in your Facebook Messenger. Again, completely FCA regulated, but every single day it uses very, very clever technology to analyse your spending habits on a daily basis. And every day it takes micro sums of money away from you, whether that be 3 pence, 7 pence, £2, £1.40, and saves them in a savings account. And you talk to Plum through your phone. Hey Plum, what is my balance? Hey Plum, send 50 quid to my current account, save £30 more, and this is all delivered by a chatbot.
Well, in terms of weather updates, you could be a leisure company where you have maybe tour groups. It could be like like Snowdonia, Surf Snowdonia. There could only be certain times that they actually operate because of the weather. So very easily you could talk to them, talk about something to do with actually how to book their services, and then by using the chatbot functionality, you can broadcast to your users. So people you know are going to be there that day, or even a booking in that week, you can broadcast a message directly to their phone using the Facebook Messenger part of the platform, or even other parts of the platform that are integrated.
Like, hey, it's a sunny day today.
It's a sunny day. Come see us. You can use that weather information in real time to actually drive more sales.
You can also take it that step further. So if those users, if a visitor of an attraction is in that particular attraction, and we know they're in there because we have booking data, and we know that they're in the park or the what do you call it, surf park,
Surf park.
I don't know. We have the ability to specifically broadcast real-time conversation to those users whilst they're in that attraction. So, for example, if we have a restaurant on site which has poor footfall on that day, we can broadcast a 10% off voucher immediately to 3,500-4,000 guests to drive footfall to that particular attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, you could also, even go a little bit further, and when you stood in front of a specific part of that attraction, ask the chatbot what it is, and then get information about that, links to articles, videos, all that kind of stuff about the history or whatever.
So I have a bit of a question that I'm going to ask to the team, including myself. And the more I speak to people about chatbots, I think the one issue at the moment is they're relatively new, and as a result, people in marketing roles and people in IT roles are finding that as they go higher up the chain and higher up the level of command in the organisations they work for, they're finding it's a difficult thing to sort of persuade the board or get buy-in from senior management. What's everyone's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've seen that in the clients that I've been working with, that it's something that the teams that we're working with day to day are really interested in doing and can really see the benefit of and can see loads of applications for it in their business. But when they go and talk to their bosses about it, their bosses are like, oh, chatbots, no, we're not going to have any control over that. So I think there's definitely some work to do for those marketing managers to actually try and educate people in the business, and maybe part of that is having some kind of a proof of concept with a low investment maybe initially, just to sort of show that those kinds of things can work.
I think a lot of it comes down to as well control, and I think with a chatbot you can actually control every element of the journey.
You have more control, you have complete control.
When you actually get maybe outsource, so there's some people who may use live chat functionality in a similar way. When you outsource that, you are outsourcing that to a group of people who you don't know what they could do on any given day. Yes, they have procedures in place. Yes, they have your tone of voice and your scripted your scripted templates for them to go off. But a chatbot can't fail in any way. It's formulaic. If the customer asks a certain question and you either want to make sure that their sales ready or just service them, you can do that in the same way for 1,000 people at once.
Every single time, same grammar, same context. And interestingly, if the three of well, in fact, there are some popular services in England that allow you to outsource your live chat and allow other organisations to take care of your live chat for you, because they have 250, 300, 500 staff that can handle sort of growth, so to say, if your live chat explodes. Now, with a chat, with that process, as new starters join the organisation, as you develop new products, as you change the way you market, that organisation has to change the way they market your product, and they need to learn your product and so on. The simple thing with a chatbot is we just make some changes to the parameters, and all of a sudden, immediately, every single user has that new user experience. If the three of us right now were to offer a live chat service, we'd all type in different tones, different dialects, different choice of words, possibly different messages. One might be right, one might be slightly wrong, one might be slightly over salesy, so to say. A chatbot can't go away from that. There's a question here from Sonia, and I think it leads on from this. So Sonia has asked if there are any good resources out there regarding user feedback and what people like or don't like. The way I read that question is around the reporting elements of a chatbot and being able to understand, are users enjoying using this chatbot? Are they finding the answers to what they came to, the questions they came to ask?
Yeah. Well, I suppose, you just kind of answered the question there, haven't you, really, by saying that are they finding the information that they came to ask? And I suppose they're enjoying it if they get the information that they were looking for. But, you could also say the same thing about your website. Are they enjoying using your website? Well, have they found what they were looking for? Have they then left the site happy?
Yeah, I guess the difference is with a chatbot, we have full reporting suite capabilities that show us the user journeys people go down. 83% of people that started with this question ended up here. Those that ended up here, you can assess the sentiment, where they're typing in a happy way, a sad way.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about a chatbot that's different from a website, with a website we can look at what people have clicked on, what page they've gone to, and what the bounce rate is. Whereas with a chatbot, you're actually having a conversation with the bot, so you can, like you say, judge sentiment. You can actually read what that person was saying or what that person was thinking through what they've typed into it.
There's a question here from Tim. Once the chatbot's created, is it then something we can control for new changes, or do we have to go to devs to update it? I'm going to give quite a political answer and say that it's a bit of both. But what I mean by that is the tools we use and the frameworks we use aren't really, really technical, super professor level elements of sort of architecture and knowledge, they are very simple to use, but I would say they do require a little bit of development experience.
Yeah.
But as a result, the costs are considerably lower than a lot of people think about when they think of AI and chatbots and deep learning and so on.
I mean, when you talk about development, you obviously need to think about development when it comes to integrating those chatbots with third-party platforms like your CRM system or telephony systems. But certainly making on-the-fly, quick, responsive changes based on what customers are doing, kind of real time through that chatbot, is quite kind of easy to put in place, isn't it?
But in terms of new changes, you need to make sure that it still stays within the core premise of that chatbot. It can be quite easy to add in some decision paths, and suddenly your chatbot can go from
really complicated.
Can be from simple to complicated. And for us, that's probably where a lot of consultancy comes into it, where we actually look at making a chatbot that is really easy for your users. You know, they need to be. If you mentioned at the start, Paul, it has to be like talking to a human. The minute it sounds like you're talking to a robot and it's just giving you canned answers and you're not really getting what you want from it in a simple, easy way, that's when you don't get enough out of it and you go somewhere else for that information.
Yeah, and I think so. There's a more of a statement here from Jonathan Flay Petty, and he said that he thinks the key to delivering this in an organisation is to steadily introduce it and have the ability to develop as and when your organisation is ready. I could not agree more. Where we're delivering chatbots at the moment, we're delivering a sort of launchpad MVP, sort of minimum viable product. What's enough to go live with? What's enough to serve the majority of your users? Let's push it out there, spend 2-3 months analysing the data and slowly iterate and develop and enhance, as opposed to
second guess as well what people are thinking, what your customers might say. You know, want to give them a chance to sort of, you know, through the conversations that they have with that bot, dictate how that bot develops and grows over time.
Definitely. I would say when I've seen projects fail, generally, but also with chatbots, when I see projects fail in globally, they're typically because they never go live, because this blue sky thinking just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And actually, I've been in situations in the past prior to Prodo where I've seen projects that should have been a really short, sharp 6-week project, but 3 years on, you're still adding more ideas into the mix and more ideas to get bigger and bigger and failing. My thinking now, and ours as an organisation, is let's launch with the minimum requirement to actually get something up and running and develop accordingly.
Well, let's solve the problems that we know about right now, and then we'll use that tool that we're deploying to work out what the other problems are based on how people interact with it.
Yeah, exactly. Pippa Goldenberg has asked another question. How much does it cost to buy the platform license and or develop and launch an MVP? So in regards to platform licenses, we use some software that we have access to based on being a HubSpot Platinum partner. HubSpot acquired a very, very good piece of software late last year called Motion.ai that you can't sign up for anymore you can't sign up for full stop. We have access to it based on being a user of it prior to the acquisition and the fact that we're a HubSpot Platinum partner. In regards to the cost to develop and launch an MVP, a lot cheaper than people expect. I would say somewhere between $7,500 and $12,500 probably to launch a good MVP that solves business needs, that sort of addresses the most common use cases for users.
Yeah.
I've seen other organisations going in at 40, 50, 60, 70 grand for chatbots that go back to what I mentioned before. They're trying to solve every single problem in the world, as opposed to...
The thing is, over time, it might well be worth putting that level of investment into a chatbot, but there's no point in doing that until you know the kinds of things that you need to put that investment in. So you might think, it would be really handy to have an integration with our CRM system, but until you just get something out there and start letting people work with it, you don't know if it's actually going to be worth that investment. Yeah, I'd agree, definitely. Okay, any more questions?
So we've got a question on, are chatbots able to be utilised on a mobile app? So the app itself.
Yes. Yes, within reason. It depends how the app has been built, and it depends on if we were doing that and if it is us, best practice would be to build the app in such a way that the app is effectively a web interface that allows you to content manage the actual app itself, which means you have the complete ability to drop on a simple piece of code that then allows an app to be served. Where I've seen app-based chatbots work very well, where the actual app is just a chatbot, they're typically natively developed applications that is a pure chatbot and nothing else, and that is where you are really escalating your costs and really escalating the time and effort required to build.
But you can also deploy them on platforms that customers are already using, like Facebook Messenger. Yeah. So you know that, I would say that probably 90% of most organisations' customers are going to have Facebook Messenger or some sort of Facebook account. Mm-hmm. You can deploy a chatbot through those platforms, so you don't need to build an app, you just piggyback off the original one.
Jonathan's asked another question. So when speaking to a real person on chat, and the chat ends, and the agent becomes free to speak to another user, can the chatbot continue the chat like a messaging service? So, for example, if sorry, loads of questions coming now. For example, if the customer has to leave the website but wants to restart the chat later on, would the user have to start again? So the answer to that question is the user wouldn't have to start again. It is completely platform agnostic, so the user doesn't only have the ability to start where they left off. They have the ability to start from where they left off on any platform, whether it's Facebook Messenger, email, SMS, and so on. To answer that question in a slightly different way as well, what chatbots have the ability to do is hand off to real people in a contact centre as and when necessary. So you can have logic paths that if the user goes down a certain logic path, and let's say we have a chatbot that's dealing with repairs in a social housing, in a group of homes in a block of flats or something like that. 90% of those inquiries might be able to be answered by this chatbot. However, the second the user goes down a path that says, I can smell gas, we could do two things. We could serve a phone number that the user presses and straight away is calling an emergency hotline, or immediately it can hand off to a real person, and that real person can take over because of the criticality of the conversation.
In a sales context, the chatbot could be helping a customer to understand which products are right for them, and then when they go down a certain path for a certain product which might be price on application or might be particularly high value, you could then trigger an agent to take over and actually start talking to them and say, right, maybe we need to set you up an account here, maybe we need to talk about volume, have a conversation that qualifies them out a little bit more. So you're only actually dealing with the people who are qualified sales leads rather than people who are just browsing the site.
Yeah. There's a question here from Lois Harding. Do chatbots work on mobile sites, not only apps? Yes. To implement a chatbot on a website, you simply have to drop a very small piece of JavaScript above the closing head tag on a website, very similar to Google Analytics installation or a tracking code or something like that. As a result, it means you can add your chatbot on absolutely any platform, whether it's WordPress, on Braco, Joomla, Drupal, Sitecore, anything.
Right, okay. So we've got around 5 minutes left. Does anyone have any final questions they want to bring in? So,
do we have any more submitted before we started?
We've gone through all of them actually. The only other one was around reputational damage, but I think we've spoken about that.
Yeah, I would discuss that a little bit more and talk about where we're talking about chatbots at the moment. We're not talking about a machine that sits in the cloud that connects to Silicon Valley somewhere and guesses your answers based on, you're not going to have one user given an answer that says, yes, that is the case, simply visit this link, and another user that gets, yeah man, visit this link, bro. You're not going to sort of get that experience. You define how the communication is, you define what the terminology used is, you define the grammar, you define every single element of the chatbot, and as a result, I feel the risk of reputational damage is far reduced.
If anyone with a chatbot, you probably would. That's the step you take to reduce reputational damage. So if you've got live chat at the moment and you're looking at a reputational chart, you'd actually say a chatbot would actually reduce your reputational damage and make your organisation safer, make your contact with your customers safer.
We both had a conversation the other day. We were on a website and it was actually a live chat provider's website, and we both independently entered into a live chat with a real person, and it was incredibly frustrating because they must have been trying to juggle 2 or 3 chats at the same time, and it was taking like 2 or 3 minutes to get answers to quite simple questions, and I was just like, messaging back saying, is anyone going to answer this question? This is getting very frustrating because, whilst 1 to 2 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, when you sat there waiting for an answer,
it's forever.
It feels like forever, whereas a chatbot can answer instantly. And it can do that to 100 people all at the same time.
Sure. We've just had 3 more questions. So Zachary has asked, can chatbots pull info from platforms such as Salesforce? Yes. Easy answer is yes. The slightly more complex answer is that's where you then start need developers such as ourselves to start using webhooks and APIs to pull and push that data. But yes, completely. And depending on the data in those databases, different conversation can be used, different flows can be used. For example, if your CRM identifies a particular user who's interacting with that chatbot as very high value, or a key customer, or perhaps a client relationship that previously went toxic or something like that, you can deal with them in a totally separate way.
But it could also be used for, when it's integrated with another system, it could also be used for like data-driven inquiries, where it's like, for example, if you imagine an example of like an airline, it could be get updates on when your next flight is going to be, or what gate changes there've been in the last hour.
Yeah.
Something that all they need to do is look up and look in a field within a CRM somewhere and see that information. The chatbot would be able to provide that service.
I think it's worth talking about as well that the data not only can be pulled out, it can be pushed back in as well.
Yeah.
So this can be used to collect information. So let's say you have an application process, whether it's careers or a housing application or a financial services application or something like this. The chatbot can take this information and push that into the relevant CRM systems or enrollment systems you may have. Couple more questions. I think an organisation here has asked, are there any free versions available? Yes, there are. There are chatbot builders out there that are free. My honest opinion is I think that's probably... I think by asking that question, what you're possibly asking is you need to demonstrate a level of success to senior management.
Yeah.
And my gut feel from using those platforms is you won't be able to demonstrate a level of success with those platforms. The platforms we use aren't high cost, and there's quite there's a cost required to have an agency build a chatbot, but it's nowhere near the cost of going through a web development project.
You probably spend more time trying to actually create a free one to a higher standard, and you just wouldn't be able to do it. So you'd end up spending months on trying to do a free one.
Yeah.
When in reality,
We'd also want to work with someone who's got the benefit of having worked on other chatbots for other companies, and rather than you spending weeks and weeks trying to learn all the stuff that we've done over a series of projects, we can just step in and do all those things straight out the gate.
Yeah. There's another question here which is a bit of a complex one. So what's the best way to teach an AI system? What kind of data do you need, and what sort of structures? And what sort of structures to be able to feed into an AI system? My honest answer is that 95% of people who are thinking about chatbots don't need AI yet. And my honest answer is, depending on the organisation you're in, or depending on the context of the chatbot, start with your MVP and start with something without AI. Start with something that solves one purpose or one goal, and then slowly develop that platform further. Now, in terms of what's the best way to teach an AI system, there are various frameworks out there, IBM Watson and various other things that are sort of pre-built frameworks that help with a lot of that, but that is where the cost to deploy and develop something like that probably reaches the hundreds of thousands of pounds at least. Yeah. Another question, are there any good demos out there on YouTube, for example? We actually have a demo chatbot ready to go. We've built a prototype that anybody here will be able to use. We'll contact everybody after this video and we'll send them the link to that, and they can have a play around with this chatbot and see that in a real environment.
fantastic.
Cool. I think that's
pretty much time,
isn't it?
it?
Yeah, I think. Another one. Hang on. Have you ever seen a successful chatbot in the legal service industries?
That's a good question. I've not seen one. I mean, I suppose the Habito one's the nearest thing, but I suppose not.
More professional services. I will come back to you offline on that. I will find you one. My answer to that is if there's not, there should be.
There's huge potential in
Yeah.
legal
Massively,
services. Yeah.
So just ask, especially when you look towards B2C or even B2B, there's so many different questions you may have at any point for a legal service. For a chatbot will be able to answer straight away.
Definitely, yeah.
And the nice thing is, if you consider a large legal firm, for example, that may deal with B2C law, you can serve different conversational flows depending on the page that somebody's on. So if somebody's on the divorce page, you can pre-enroll that user into a chatbot that starts with, thank you for visiting our divorce page. Which area of divorce do you want help with, or whereabouts in the divorce process are you, and so on.
Well, that could conclude with being, given the contact details for the relevant contact within that organisation to speak to. They've then got all the information about what your problem is, and they can start building up a file on you, straight away. Yeah,
definitely. Brilliant. Okay, thank you for joining us. We hope to do more of these sessions. We've got a couple of other topics lined up, and we are considering an evening session as well every now and again to sort of maybe capture people who aren't able to dedicate half an hour throughout the day on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your input. It's been a good session.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.